Holbrook New Media.
This is Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Welcome to the audio feed from holbrooknewmedia.com. Today, Geoff and Jeffrey, the weekly catch-up. We hope you enjoy the audio version. If you want to see what we look like, I will embed the video for this episode at holbrooknewmedia.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the weekly catch-up episode number 34. Welcome back, and joining us is the co-host of the weekly catch-up, Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Good morning.
Good morning or good evening to you, sir, or generic time of the day. I guess we could do that.
Well, it's whatever day, whatever time you want to say it is anyway. So.
Yeah. We actually got about 3 inches of snow this past week. Happened, of course, down in the valley below us, there's a thermal barrier that's just at the lower part of my 7 acres worth of property here. And so somehow there'll be fog above it, fog below it, whatever. But if they get an inch down in the valley, we get 3 up here. And so, I mean, it's just an altitude difference. It's really funny.
Oh, so, well, we've been having the absolute opposite. It's been quite warm here. But then again, it's gone quite warm. But now today it's below the 80s today. And then it was sort of nearly 100 on Monday.
Wow.
So been up and down. But as I was saying to somebody else the other day when we complain about our cold winter's days, I thought, well, it doesn't get below what's your 40. I think it is. That's the old overnight low is 40. That's what we complain. We go, oh, it's freezing, and that's what we think's freezing. So
well, it got up to 50 today, and that's why the snow melted off. Up to, yeah.
Well, for us, it was, as I said, on Monday, it was supposed to got nearly to 100, but the sun never broke through the clouds. So it's a very strange sort of day where it's very hot, but no sun. So you keep thinking it's colder than it actually is. But anyway, it got that hot. And then all of a sudden, the next day, that's the thing with this place. It's hot 1 minute and then a bit chilly the next. So I don't mind it. Been good summer so far.
Oh yeah, we have a situation with our winters to where there's about a 20-year cycle of really huge bad snow and stuff. And like in the 70s, at one point we had 3 feet of snow at my house where we lived at, and then of course this is all within the 30-mile radius of here. So anyway, we had about 3 feet, and then 20 years later, whenever my wife and I came and looked at the house here when we were going to buy it, the first time we looked at it, there was 9 or 10 inches of snow on the ground when we looked at the house. And so that was in the 90s, right? Almost 20 years later after the 70s. And then in the teens here, we've just now come through some heavier snow winters. And then now it's February 1st, and we have had that 3 inches is the most snow we'd had. I think we'd accumulated about an inch before. And so we're pulling out of that heavy snow thing. And so hopefully I'm hoping that the rest of the winter won't be that way, because February is always, iffy. And then occasionally you'll get a bad storm in March or even April, but generally after February you start looking into spring and things like that. But it's usually January is the worst of it. And we've barely had even a puff. It's really kind of nice now, once I retire and I can sit here and watch it and burn the wood stove and eat some soup and enjoy the process, it's all right,
Well, I remember as a kid in England, I used to love it because growing up in snow, it was great because when it snowed and got too much, you never got to go to school. You got to stay home because you couldn't get out, so you loved it. But if you're an adult, you had to get out and get things. You still had to traipse around and do something, so you didn't really appreciate it. But I think with, like you were saying, you saw your house when there was 6 inches of snow on the ground. I always think when people look for houses, they should look for houses in the worst conditions they could possibly think of. And if they love the place, that's it's only going to be better in summer, isn't it? Whereas people see these lovely houses in a nice summer, and it's gorgeous, or in spring, and it's all lovely. Don't see it in. So, well, what's the worst time of year it could be? Always go and see them at that time when they say, well, where is the house? I can't find it.
Yeah. Well, the situation we had was, it was friend of a friend that owned the house, and it was a house that we'd admired this house for years. I always thought rich people lived there. Now I know they don't. But
well, now you're there.
but anyway, what we ran into was, this was just being sold directly from the owner instead of using a realtor or something like that. And so they had actually talked to people, come up to it, and then didn't like the people well enough, and they didn't sell them the house, because he had built the house when he was a bachelor. They got married right here in what they call the great room. I mean, it's like a 28 by 18 room over here with a big fireplace, and that's what's outside of my door here. Anyway, they got married right there. So they were really attached to the house. And so what happened was, the fact that we had the 9 inches of snow, we came on a Sunday straight from church and met the owners, and there was this 9 inches of snow. Well, this place has 7 acres. And so there's a barn and there's a shop building down off the hill from the house here. And so I wanted to see it. And I'm wearing dress shoes and a suit and stuff like that. And so I was wet up past my knees by the time we got back. But that impressed that guy so much that I wanted to see the property. I wasn't afraid to get my feet wet, because he didn't have any boots that'll fit me by about 4 different sizes, just what he had. My feet were a lot bigger than his. So I was just out there walking around the property in my suit, and he was so impressed with that. And she fell in love with Dee. They were here in the house talking. They were bound and determined to sell us this house, because they thought we were good people to treat it right and appreciate the house. It was funny. It must be good
to be in that sort of way when you're selling a house, that you can sort of knock back in people and just get the people you would like to have, because I'm sure everybody would. Some people just don't care, but I mean, when you've gone to the trouble of building it yourself, I'm sure you just have that little bit special attachment. Even though you've sold it, you still think it's yours. So
I mean, the house here and the next house that our neighbors over there, several hundred yards away, were built by brothers and their father. All three of them together built both houses. And whenever I go look at my electrical box, it says wired by, and it says dear old dad. It's what it says.
Are they still owned by those people, or did they move on as well? So
the brother sold even before this guy did. And so, their dad owned the whole top of this mountain, and then they built 2 houses, and then they leased a bunch of it or sold it to the cable company that's several hundred yards in that direction. And then, so they just basically sold the whole top of the mountain off. And then there were 2 other people that split up about 70 acres that were left, and they're out behind us. Both of those people are. But anyway, so the family eventually divested themselves of the entire mountaintop. But it's funny though. But the house is built solid. I mean, it's very solid. And I mean, it surprises you how many nails were used, how many studs were used, and how evenly everything is built. When I was putting in the new kitchen several years ago, for her 20th anniversary, she wanted a new kitchen. So, I was going to I checked to see how much it was, and it was going to be $21,000 to have it installed and $8,000 if I did it myself.
Oh,
so
you did it yourself?
Yeah, I did it myself. And measuring, they're supposed to be 16 inches on center. I didn't miss a stud a single time, the entire time putting the entire kitchen in, because they were that evenly done and that well done. Yeah. I mean, I was totally impressed.
I tell you, if it had been me, did he say 21,000 installed? And yep, I would have paid the 21,000 for it installed, because if I'd done it, I would have ended up spending $30,000 fixing up my mistakes.
Oh, well, honestly, I got some books from Home Depot, which is our home supply store, and I learned how to do wiring. I did wiring. I did plumbing. I installed. We moved everything, so we moved the refrigerator from where it originally was. I wired 5 or 6 separate outlets. I moved a light on the ceiling to a different location. Again, we moved the refrigerator where it really should have been in the first place, and we installed a dishwasher, and and I can't say that I didn't have some aggravating times, but 10 years later, my wife loves it still and would not and doesn't want anything to ever happen to it. She says maybe we'd get a real fancy countertop, like a granite countertop maybe later or something, but she wants it to stay. Even a window seat. We have a couple of lower windows in there, and we have a window seat on one end of the kitchen. It's a pretty large room. We had a lot of room to work with, and there's a window seat in there that, you can sit on while somebody's cooking, and you can sit there and talk to them. So it's pretty fancy as kitchens go. But if somebody looked close, I'm sure they could find some of my details.
But then I would love to do my kitchen like that and get it all fixed. But as I said, everything, and people said to me, "Oh, you can do it. You learn how to do that." Even something like the last time I decided I'm going to paint the kitchen, I'll paint the bedrooms. They're shocking. It's just because when you put tape up, try to not get the colored paint on the corners and that, but I did. No matter how much I tried, I'm just hopeless at anything like that. And I say to people, I can't even hit a nail in. That's how challenged I am. I said I try, but and everything I seem to touch, like if it says it's, like you said, measure. If it measures, 16 inches or whatever, and I say I measured it 16 inches. If I measure it and cut it 16 inches, it turns out to be 18 inches.
Oh, okay. Yeah, whenever it goes back, it's wrong.
I'll measure it 3 times, everything, and it never worked out. And people say, "Don't be silly to me. Look, I'll help you." Who does that? And I had one before. I had to change the curtains, do the nets behind the curtains, and so I don't do it. I'll help you do that, and we'll do that. And so I thought it must be somebody's going to help me. They said, "Oh, you can give me." I said, "Look, I really don't want to have any part to do with this because whenever I touch anything like that, it messes up." And they said, "Don't be silly. Don't be silly. You can help." So I'm just holding the tape measure, and that. So 3/4 of them's gone fine, but I've got 3 windows now that's about that short. Because I told you, what if I helped you? Because they did these, and I said, "I told you, you should have done it on your own because I surely get up and I said, look, it's not that bad, but as I said, if I get involved in anything like moving my computer, setting up all these things, fine, I can do all these things. I could set up all these things that are quite awkward to do, but I said all I had to do was measure the length from the top to the bottom of the drop, and that would. But no, I didn't even do that. I just held the tape measure that time. So I said, if I hadn't been involved, it would have never happened. You see, so there was one with measured, and then they said, "Oh, that'll be fine. It's all the same as the other ones." But no, the other windows are slightly longer than this other one. And you see on the side of the house, you'd think all the windows going from the top to the floor would be the same. Wouldn't you?
Well, no. I've noticed that ours don't. Ours aren't the same. You would think they would be, but there's differences.
Then I said, anything I get involved with, it's just a nightmare. Like the other day, as I went down to, I was trying to think of the name of your place, is the Home Depot store, because I was, how I've been wanting to move where we do this down to my sort of studio downstairs, and so I'm just a bit scared to do that because it's all set up and working here where we've got it. And
once it works,
I'm frightened if it's so. The other day we had on the 26th we had Australia Day, so I had the day off work, so I thought I've got to go to. What's yours called? Is it Staples? Your office supplies?
Yeah, the office supplies, Staples, and then there's another one that there's Staples, and then there's another one that's competing with them. I can't remember their name.
I was thinking of that one first. I'd forgotten about Staples, but and then so I was going to go there, but then I ended up going to the equivalent of your Home Depot, and then because I wanted to get, and I thought I want to get a network cable to put it down so I can put the cable down there, and so I don't have to use the Wi-Fi. And so I thought I'd go into our equivalent, Bunnings, which is our Home Depot, just get some clamps just to put it nice and neatly against the side there. So I went there to get them, but then I saw they happened to have, the Home Depot had the network cables, and so probably $5 cheaper than the wood at the proper Staples, because you think, well, why would they be doing them? So I got that on Australia Day, and I got it back, and I've got the cable all nicely stretched around there, so it's not obtrusive, so I haven't knocked any holes in any walls, because I thought, well, I might not like that eventually. So it's not, and it's just sort of down the stairs, and the room's just down the bottom here, and I've got it all set up, and I moved all the I had a screen on there, put it on the other side, moved the desk, threw everything out, rearranged everything, got the other monitor set there, ready to go, and I thought, no, I've got we're doing the show on Saturday morning. I might mess it up. And then did the show Saturday morning. I thought, no, I've got the show on Wednesday, because I'm still scared.
There's a solution to all this, you realize. Buy a completely new separate set of equipment, get it up and running.
Well,
and then while this one's still operational.
It's silly you're saying that, because I was looking the other month saying this Mac is about 3 years old, but they really haven't updated it at all with anything that they've been doing lately. So there's no point updating. But I was considering, if I get another machine, I can put that down there, and then I can still have this up here. But the only thing that's stopping me is I can't do it bit by. I can take the machine down there. That's fine. But what I can't do here, I've got the light, but the light is behind the desk, and there's a wall there. And it took me hours to get the light there by myself, doing it to there between the desk and getting the big stand there. And then there's the other camera, and so I've got to take the lights down as well and get that all down there. And I'm still a bit scared if I get it, even traveling up the cable to there, that might be to lose just that much of a signal that I can't do the streaming. That's what I'm worried about. So.
Well, saying lighting doesn't have to be that expensive. I was talking to Rick about the kind of lighting that I have here. I've got about $10 in the lighting that I have here, $10 American. And the reason why is because okay, I mean, no, I have three lights on. There's the overhead room light up here. Over in this corner is a standardized lamp with a regular, type of the daylight bulb in it. And then right behind here is one of those clamp on lights like you would get at Home Depot or, your place, with two pieces of printer paper, two clothespins. So I'm getting indirect lighting from this direction and so I've got roughly in the bulbs and in the light and all that and the paper and the two clothespins, I've probably got about $10 in my lighting.
And your lighting is fairly good as well. So I mean,
it isn't professional grade, but it gets the job done for what I'm doing. So you could move down there and get that working with some not quite professional lighting, make sure it works, then move your lighting so that you wouldn't have to uninstall it before you did the other thing. You could just do some, put together lighting kind of like I've done here, and that might do it.
I'm going to have a little LED torch.
Just stand there like, like the Vincent Price,
I just thought about that. I could have one on two things pointing at me.
Or just right there with one of them, headlight lights on, they're shining right at the camera, you mentioned something earlier about not being able to hammer a nail.
Yes.
I have something to tell you about that. This is in the late 80s. My brother-in-law's truck broke down in my driveway. And so I was working evening shift, but it was set up to where before I went to work on the way, I could stop over in South Charleston and because I was vice president of a computer club, the Commodore 64 Plus users group. And anyway, I was leaving the house, and I was dressed a little better than I usually did whenever I went to work. And so my brother-in-law looks at me and he asks me what what am I dressed up a little for? And I said, well, I'm a president of the, or vice president of the Commodore 64 Plus users group. And, we're going to have a meeting and then I'm going to go straight to work from there. And he just kind of got this look on his face. This was the late 80s, and so, but it was a nice day and we had the windows open. And after I left, my wife heard him tell his friend that was helping him work on his truck. He said, that old boy can't hammer and nail, but he sure does take good care of my sister.
So it's a bit doolally or something.
Yeah, because he's very handy around the house. He could build anything he wanted. He could build a whole house if he wanted to. He's just very, very, good working with his hands. But his whole idea for me, I'm into photography. I don't hunt or fish, and I'm into photography and I'm into computers, all that stuff he didn't understand. But he appreciated the one thing that qualified me was the fact that I took good care of his sister. But, hammering a nail, he would just come and do that for me. He didn't really worry about that too much.
I just get so jealous of people like that who can do that, because I'd love to do things like do the kitchen, and I would love to be able to do that. I'd love to spend time doing it. I'm not lazy. I would, as I said, I wouldn't mind doing it one little bit if the effort I put into it returns some results. But I do everything right. I sand things down, do it all. I don't just slap paint on I try to do everything the best way, but there's just something always comes at, like, I've got this bookshelf, like you get all flat packed, got it all assembled, and then found out one bit was upside down, so I had the inside bit showing out.
I've got two bookcases right here, so thanks for the warning. I got to put these together.
And I just got it all, and I thought, oh no, because you can see it should have a nice thing, but it's got the back side of it facing the front. And I thought,
okay.
Never said I'm hopeless at that.
You were talking about the line where the ceiling and then the wall meet, as far as the painting and stuff like that. We took care of that the last time we painted by getting a neutral color and painting the ceiling and the wall the same color. Because I had so much trouble with that 2 times ago when we painted, and just the annoyance, and you think you've got it, no. Okay. So we just paint the ceiling and the wall the same, say kind of a beige or that type of thing, just a neutral color, and then just paint it all the same color and don't worry about it. Yeah. You just go in that crack and go right up through there and then do the ceiling to the wall.
But I find it's like the coffee cup.
Mm-hmm.
If you go at work, you run up the corridor or whatever with your full coffee cup, put it down on the desk and drink it, and fine. But when you're running along, if somebody said, be careful with that coffee. No, you can't do it, can you? And it's like that painting, you go, be careful. And your mind just said, I think your mind just said, I'm going to make you do it, because you're thinking too much and you just paint on the thing. And it's just like that coffee cup. You start thinking about, and I start, be careful. And you just can't. I just can't do it. But then you see the painters and you think that's what they're there for. They're just, just roughly, they just don't get a drop anywhere when they do that, do they? They just, and like I bought one of these little edger things that does it across the edge, but then it clags up and then it gets all. And if
the thing is, we are all specialists at specific things. Like you were talking about how you really envy the people who are handy and can do carpentry or painting or whatever. Well, yes, but they think you're pretty smart in the fact that you do your computer and your video and your photography and stuff like that. That's something that's out of their wheelhouse. There was a guy who that I knew for years. I went to school with his daughter, and so the principal of the school that I had gone to, he was a mentor of mine, and he ended up being my daughter's principal when she went to school and everything. He was building his house. Okay. And so I thought, I heard about it. And I said, okay. So I went over and donated a day of unskilled labor at his house. And the guy, I knew the guy who was doing the contracting, and he was donating a lot of his labor too. It was, because his daughter, this is a mentor for him, and it was a Christian ministry, this guy, and so he's donated so much of his time to the ministry and to the kids and everything like that. And so we're over there and we're trying to build his house. Well, this guy would put 10 nails in his mouth and pull one out and go boom, bang, boom. And we're talking 10, 12 penny nails. He would go bang, boom. and with just a regular claw hammer. And I watched him do that all day long. And he would tell me, he said, okay, put 10 nails evenly spaced in that board over there. And so I'm over there going bang, 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 bang. And he is making the nails stand up, and one hit that far down through the wood, whack. Just because he was that experienced. That house probably weighs another 100 pounds because of how many nails he put in that house. I've never seen so many nails so close together in a house.
With that, he'd put with such force on that. But you and I know if we did that, we'd miss that and it'd be our hands.
Oh yeah, and the thing would go, because he would just make it stand up, just tap it enough to stand up, and then the entire. We're talking 3 inches of nail. In one hit with a standard claw hammer. Totally impressed with this guy.
He's this person who goes to the state fair with the sledgehammer and rings the bell.
Totally.
And we could be hitting it, and it'll just go 3 inches up. But they're the sort of people who because they're just so skilled, it's just they've got the technique. And I think, I know I have a go at me not doing it, but it's all what you get used to. And if I kept persisting and doing that, I'm sure I'd get better at it, but it's too costly with all the things I want to do.
Here's what you do. You go around to your friend's house and you help 3 or 4 of your friends install their kitchens. Then you come back and do yours once you learn how to do it.
I want to keep some friends.
I was going to say, you wouldn't have any friends left. That's what worried me the most when we were shooting weddings for some of our friends. We were back in the film days. We were shooting some weddings for people that didn't have thousands of dollars to do the weddings, and we would shoot their weddings for them. And we shot, I don't know if we shot 10 maybe or so, just for friends, and didn't lose a single friend out of it. So we gave them more than they asked for. I used professional film. I'd learned enough by that time, and I knew about lighting, things like that. And so, it really worked out well for all of them. And we didn't lose any friends at all. But like you say, it's something that you want to help as best you can. But, you want to make sure you know a little bit about it before you get there, and at least make sure they know that you don't know anything about it. Before you get there.
I did that for, in the early days, some friends' weddings and that. But back then, the other option was nothing. So you had nothing to lose. Whereas now, they say, if I didn't get you, I could have got somebody else to do it. But back then, you just did it because you were friends. And they said, well, if you didn't do it, nobody else would. And I still don't mind doing that if they're not going to have anybody do it. I said, but I'm not going to do it if I'm the only thing, if you were thinking of paying somebody to do it. I said, I don't mind doing it, but there was one a year or so ago, and they said, could you do it? He says, but I said, I've also got my, a relative who's a professional photographer I said, well, no, I'm not going to. If you get him to do it. He says, because he wants to. I said, well, he's your family, I'm not. And I said, I'll only do it if there's nobody, if you're not going to have anything to do, because I said I don't mind doing it, but I'm not doing it when somebody depends on that for their life things. That's what these true professional ones do, and so that's why you pay them decent money for that. And I'm never going to take it away from those sort of people, because they're skilled in that. They've got backups. They know they're going to do a good job. They've done plenty of them before. But I suppose, like everything, even then they've got to start somewhere. Then they don't all start perfect, do they? But that's what they do, I suppose. So you practice on things that you don't mind. But I know what I would do if you take a friend with you and have them taking a backup shots or something, even if you don't think that there's that good. We say, just keep still and shoot.
Well, when my youngest brother got married, I had shot some weddings by this point, and so he got a professional to shoot his wedding, but got a much smaller package, and
Oh,
then
okay.
bought several rolls of the professional film
Hmm.
that I use, gave it to me, and said, "Tell the story."
Mm.
And so what happened was the photographer, the professional, was only he understood what my situation was, that I was going to stay out of his way, and he was the guy who was taking the real wedding pictures. But
Oh, okay.
he wasn't contracted for anything else. And so what happened was he shot the wedding. He did the after wedding shots. I actually, if anything, worked kind of as an assistant and kept people cleared out instead of them flashing and making his photo floods go off and stuff. And so I was kind of keeping people clear and letting him do that. Well, he stayed after the wedding itself was done and went to the the dinner afterwards and stuff. After it was over with, they always have the thing, the reception and all that. And he had this really nice professional Canon flash that, of course, he used for his. Well, he took it and plugged it into my camera and became my assistant, holding the flash off to the side while I was taking pictures, and
Oh,
was
that's good.
instructing me. Okay, they're getting ready to do there's that tradition where they do the garter, they take the garter off of her and all that. And he goes, okay, now make sure when you do the garter, you're around this side. And, and he was actually directing me as just a great guy. I just love this guy. And he's holding the flash and the big old fancy flash that my camera would interface with, plugged it into my camera, and he's directing me on the positions to take to get the pictures and stuff. For free. And so I learned a tremendous amount from this guy. I loved it, had a good time. And then I gave all the film to my brother, and he got them developed, and they got tons and tons of pictures and didn't pay very much for the,
Oh,
for the
well,
actual, they got the real pictures, but then I told the story.
but that's what a lot of people say. If you do want to go shooting weddings, find a photographer that's doing weddings and just say, do you want somebody to carry your bags and hold that? You don't have to be perfect, but we'll always have someone, oh, you can come, and you just follow them and say, give me this lens, give me that lens, or like a caddy, sort of.
You used to have to change film for them. Back in the day, they had people who were changing film for them. Now it's not. Now you don't have to worry about that because you can just blaze away all you want. But some free, photo assistant things. A lot of people will go for that unless they feel like you're going to take their market or something eventually. But
it's just like there's a lot of those people out there now that teach people how to do wedding videos and photography, and all they do is they copy somebody else's course. Have you seen a few of those that they've been to a course and they just parrot it and pretend it's their own type thing, whereas and that it is because they say the same words as these other ones did. And I think some people have just got more guts than I ever would, because I'd never say I could do something that I couldn't actually do. I just don't know how people could live with themselves. And sometimes I do it the other way, that I know I can do it, but I wouldn't, I don't trust it enough to do it. So I always hang back a little bit, but it's, as I said, there's a lot of people out there who unfortunately say the professional photographers, but they're just, keen enthusiasts. I think there's a big difference but like I said, professional doesn't mean you just get paid for it. It's a different way. It's the attitude and the way you go about it. And like you said, it's for equipment as well. You don't have to have really expensive equipment. It helps with all the different things, but you can see these people who are talented. Some of them they have really mediocre cameras and really low end gear, but they know how to take a shot, they know how to frame it, they just know how to use lighting properly, and it just makes such a difference. And all these the more modern they get, the more easier they get to use, but it doesn't take a better picture though, does it? Because every camera really takes a nice, clear, clean picture you can get, and most of them are in focus.
My first wedding that I shot, I had a Canon EOS Elan film camera, which I still have, by the way. But I had a flash that did not read through the lens. There wasn't anything like that. It was just a steady flood of what happened. And so what I did was got film and I practiced with this flash for the exposures that I was looking for at different distances.
Oh, okay.
And so I had a constant shutter speed, but I adjusted the aperture for every 5 feet in the direction that I went back and forth. And I did that. And I'm trying to think, I cannot imagine trying to do that now, but I would go 5 feet further forward and I would make an adjustment on the, on the aperture. I would close it down a little bit so that it wouldn't overexpose. And then I would take 5 feet back. I'd go 10 feet back on a larger group, 2 clicks. And I got consistent lighting all the way through the entire wedding because I changed it every 5 feet with a constant flow of light and a constant shutter speed. The only variable was the aperture. And I didn't forget even once, and all the pictures turned out amazing. I was really shocked.
I think I don't know if you or Rick were saying the other week, in the early days when we used to shoot film and that, and do everything manual, there's no automatic, but very rarely did you get a horrible picture. Like I nearly always got them in focus. The only odd shot that you get is when you've accidentally pressed the shutter release when the lens cap was on, when you're putting it in the bag. But that was the only odd one. But it was quite amazing out when you used to get 36 films on the roll and get them developed, and pretty much most of them came out in focus. There might have still been rubbish pictures some of the time, but it was just amazing how in focus it came. And then you get the real modern ones that do everything for you. And because it's digital and you don't care, you seem to get more horrible pictures, maybe because you don't think, we don't have to think so much. We don't care because we'll just say, oh, let's just, if that goes wrong, I can always take it again. It's not going to cost me, what did it used to cost roughly? It would probably be about $1 a picture, really, in the old, wouldn't it? About 36 pictures would cost you about $34 or something to get produced in that, wouldn't it? That'd be about it. So roughly about
I was probably paying the teens for it, probably about half that American probably during that period of time. For doing the 36 exposure thing, I was probably paying $15-16 for it, American.
Well, I see. I'm later this year. I'm going to have to get more serious again when I buy my new camera.
Yeah, you only get that 5.
Yeah. I really don't want to. I'm trying to.
Yeah, but this is 2017. It's a new year. You can buy something this year. You remember last year you decided you wasn't going to? The resolution is off.
It's got so much going for it, though. It's got everything I want in that small factor, and I love my Panasonic FZ1000 that I'm using, and it's better than that with all of the different things it's got on it. The main thing, though, I do like with it is it's small and compact, and you can see yourself using it. There's lots of these other cameras, more than adequate, do an excellent job. But when people see a proper video camera, they tend to say, what are you doing with it? Everybody's used to a DSLR type format for you to do, and even if you're doing video, it doesn't seem to be a problem. But $3,600 is going to cost me here, as opposed to probably about $2,600 it would be in America.
With the same, just the same philosophy that you used with your keyboard, you put the money into it, you'll get out and use it.
And also, as well, as I said, even though I worry about that, then you start looking at other things and what people are spending on other things. I thought, well, hang on, that's not that much, considering if I use it, like even the keyboard, I've been using it every day since I bought it, and the other one, and like just the other night, I was there for about 3 hours. I did my practice that I had to do for about 45 minutes practice, but then the rest of another 2 hours playing on the thing. It was still practice, but I was just thinking, people who'd never been around music just don't understand. You don't have to play good, but when you produce something yourself, even if you're singing along with it, and that just how much more fun it is when you're playing and you're singing along to it. As I said, you don't have to be good for you. Everybody expects to have to be that good that can perform and show off to everybody on the internet, but not everything needs to be shown, because you don't want to frighten people away, do you?
Well, I guess that's true. I know the feeling of, again, we had our family band for around 20 years. And we had voice training when we were younger. And so I will say I am probably more talented as a singer than I am a bass player, because I was the bass player for the band. You can see my guitar in some of the shots. You can see it behind me there hanging on the wall. But I loved that. And it was all my brothers. Being part of a tight band is the kind of rush that you never get just getting up there and singing.
No.
I mean, producing the music, making the music. My youngest brother, the drummer, we're accenting our beats together and we're doing stuff, and just that feeling of tight, music and togetherness and watching the effect on the crowd. And I mean, there is no feeling like making your own music. I mean, there is just no feeling like that.
No, that's right. And I was just thinking that I thought I'm so lucky to be able to do this, because I get so much enjoyment out of it. And it's the sort of thing, like, with that you can do it. You don't have to have others to enjoy it as much. And
Sure.
there's always something new to learn or a new technique to do. And like me, I'm going back to bass, trying to learn it better so I can do better fingering.
Sure.
And even now we're just getting back to it. And I thought, that does it's making my other playing a little bit better. At first it was making it horrible because I couldn't do anything, because I'll try to do. I thought, no, I know I'm going to do this, but no, it should be the other finger. And it's like trying to, when you type, if you touch type and if you just wear two finger and then you try to do each, you can't even type a little letter at first. It takes you forever. And that's the first few weeks it was getting back into it. I was doing the same thing on that, but now I've got past that point and it's starting to be good and using the correct fingers and that. But a lot of the times I was figuring that I am actually using the right finger, but I didn't realize I was.
Oh,
okay. How when you're learning it and you think, oh, hang on, I'm using that in that correct way. But anyway, it's all fun, as I said. But then at least, no matter what, I've got something to show for it.
Well,
sure. A lot of things you pay that money. You've got a nice bit of equipment that you can use a lot of different things. And they said I'm using equipment, so I could use this camera, I use a computer, use all the things I'd do it for. So I was getting back when you said just before, when you said the stream was down, we had a bit of a kerfuffle in the last few weeks with our Skype for the Tech Down Over.
I kind of noticed that there was like several 1 and 2 and 3 second live streams on there.
It's me. You see my little. I did a little thing for about 3 minutes for Tech Down Over number 104.
I remember I turned that on and I'm thinking, no audio. And so I started checking my end. Is it turned up? Yeah. Is it on it? They don't have audio. So, okay. So as soon as you pop back up later, then I went and checked that out. Oh, okay. They actually had a problem with it, and I was thinking, well, it's so sad,
Well, we had two problems, which was, but I was saying to Rick, it was fortunate that we had the second problem because we lost the first problem anyway. But the first one, we had Curtis Judd on, which fortunately he's coming back this week. So hopefully,
I'll do it up here too.
I don't mind. Me and Rick don't mind when it's ourselves, but we just hate to inconvenience a guest who's given up their time. I'm sure Curtis understands, but we got him on the line and we started talking and was doing it, and it's the same thing like we do sometimes. No, hang on, he's not moving anymore.
Yeah.
It was the whole machine had frozen. It said, how long's he been like that? So have we been talking to him and just waiting for it? But this Skype thing froze and we couldn't get him back on the line. He couldn't redial it. So while Rick's trying to figure it out, there I am like a mug on there talking away by myself, when I do this when I do this to you.
Right.
And
oh yeah. And I'm telling a story and everything's great. And that's what
yeah, well, I was on that for 10 minutes while he's trying to do that and going on and on. And then when they found out we didn't have sound, I thought, I wasted all that time doing very good. I thought I was doing very good covering and all that.
Yeah. One of the things you have to say though, there are so many people on, online that have various attitudes, but Curtis Judd strikes me as quite the gentleman. I mean, he is so reasonable, so easy to get along with, just a very, very nice gentlemanly man, and I mean, I'm sure he's gonna he's gonna just kind of laugh it off, and then you'll just have a show, because surely it's happened to him before with all the stuff he's
And
done.
he's such a nice fellow. I was going to say that. They just said he's
Mm,
just so easy going, and we've had him on a couple of times before. We just enjoy talking to him and I've just watched all his videos. He's just
sure.
put one out the other day about lighting
Hmm.
and just explaining a bit. He explains things to people, quite easy, where people say, "Oh, now I get it."
Hmm.
Because a lot of times when people explain things, they just say, "Yes, well, what do they mean?" And like he would just explain the difference between soft light and hard lights,
Sure.
and like a lot of people just think, a soft light is lower, and a hard light is higher. Well, it's
No.
not. but they're the sort of things most people won't explain, because if you don't, well, you would think a soft light is probably dimmer. You'd think that's just the natural thing when you're not doing in lighting, and you'd think a hard light, well, probably it's really bright.
Well, it's
And that,
diffused is, I think, the difference there.
but that's what he did one there showing with the an aperture light he was showing, but all the different effects and that. But I thought they're the sort of things that I really enjoy watching, even when you know a bit about, but you always pick something up. There's
Yes.
never a thing wrong, and that's why I won't do a lot of these product reviews and product things, because there's people like Curtis and all these other that do a really good job at that, and I thought I feel like I could not do justice after the great job that they do on there. So
You could. I think you could, because you're very much like him. I think you are quite the gentleman. I'm not just saying it but I'm serious. It's and were you doing learning and stuff like that? Teaching is what he's doing, and I think that's something that's one of your fortes as well. I think you'll do fine, and you'll make people feel like real people can do this.
and
Go ahead.
what I like to do, if I do those things, is try to do something that others haven't. And I said, if you want to see how, go and see that one. They'll show you. I'm not going to speak specs and that, but what I think. And like some people like to know how I film or how I do that, but not the way some other people tell them all the things you do this, but it's a bit too much for some people.
Sure.
So some of the times that's what I like to just show what my impressions are. But because there's so much out there on the internet, there's as I said, it's like everything in this. Not everybody's got their own opinion, but not one person's 100% right all the time.
Well, and the personalities are different. Sometimes, you'll identify with somebody and then not another person. I enjoy playing the game Skyrim, on now I've got it on the PS4. And I'm not a huge gamer, but I do enjoy playing Skyrim. I vacation there every so often, and so because you can just it's an open world, you just go walk around, slay a dragon or two after work before you go to bed. Yeah, no, but there's several. I thought, wouldn't it be nice if you could just, I know the game really well. I mean, it's something that over the last several years, I've actually spent a fair amount of time playing it. Again, just every so often. Start a new character and just go through some of the quests. And I've gone through a lot of the quests a lot. Well, I thought, I could probably maybe on YouTube, do some screen, recordings of what I'm doing with me talking over it and explain what's going on. That there's probably 10 channels or so that are just dedicated to Skyrim on YouTube.
Oh,
You
you thought
like,
something unique.
yeah, but I did find out a quest I'd never heard of the other day after, because it came out in 2011. So I found a new quest the other day and I said, oh boy, and I went in there and went and did the quest, and, it was kind of cool because I learned something new.
But that was what did you hear years ago when we used to use, Rick and I, was Justin TV.
Mm-hmm.
We used to use that for broadcasting before you could do it on YouTube, and that was free. But then that got bought up. They sold that for $980 million or something. There was 4 guys who started that up. And they're only young guys, so you can imagine that made a difference to their lives, I think.
Yeah.
They sold it to Twitch. And so now all they use is, and that's all they do all day, is show video games and people, showing people playing their video games. And that's
well, I have a friend that is on Twitch, and he's actually the one I bought the PS4 from. And they came down to the end and had done all their Christmas shopping, and so he knew how much I loved Skyrim, and so he bought me the new remastered version of Skyrim for the PS4.
Oh, that was
And
nice.
which was so cool. And I named my first character after him. And, every when I see him, I tell him what's going on. But he plays on Twitch, plays different games on Twitch all the time. And so what he was doing was using a Blue Yeti and just setting it on his desk and gaming. And so, of course, the dog breathing 2 blocks down, you could hear if his girlfriend was in the room, and she moved a magazine, you could hear it fluttering, stuff like that. So I bought him one of these mics with this pullover arm, just like I've got here. And so now he is all set up with one of these and, the pop filter and the whole bit. And so now he's getting good sound. It's very similar to what I've got. Now, he's not sound treated like I am, but it sounds great. And, that's what I was telling him, you have to do that. And so it worked out great for him.
And like you was just talking about how the woes we had on that tech down over. Did you see we had some other problems this week? We had it as well.
Well, I was looking for a new one, and I keep seeing these little 1 and 2 second, things that, and then the nephew I think was on there, and on a 1 second one, and then then Electoral Live came out. Okay, and like I said, I haven't watched that, but I thought, okay, they must have, I knew they were having trouble, but because I check it, 2 or 3 times a week at least to see what's going on.
We had this week we had Chris Nichols and Jordan Drake from the Camera Store, from Alberta in Canada on there, and we started up the stream, and then we kept getting feedback from there. We just went in continuous loop. So we don't know what, and every time we stopped and started, so we gave up in the end and still did this. So let's not stream, just record it, and we'll put it up later. So it's up there now. So unfortunately, we got about 40 minutes, and it was great that those guys were understanding, because I was really thrilled to get them on the show, because I was wanting to talk to them, and they were really great. They filled up 40 minutes really quickly on there, but. That said, it's up there now on YouTube. I think we put it on Vimeo earlier, but I see Brick's put that on YouTube. But that's the thing, is when you stream like we're doing here live, it's there. That's where it's really an advantage, because if you don't and you record it, yes, you can put it up there, but you've always got to put it up there. And when you've recorded and put it up, you almost automatically feel obliged to edit it. You feel obliged to do something with it when it's before you put things up, whereas when you do like this, well, you can't, it's already done.
Well, I've really grown a lot and loosened up a lot on the editing thing, because whenever we first started doing this, and probably for the first, I don't know how many episodes, I was going through and listening to it live, and if I stuttered a little bit, or there was a little delay, or we went or something like that, I was going through, and I was just, I'm good in Audacity now, and so I was just taking those little things out of there, and it might take a total of 3 minutes off the show by the time I got to the end, and buddy, it was tight, and it was good, and that was great, and I was doing that, and finally I got to thinking, maybe I just won't put out the audio version, and I didn't put out the audio version for about a month, and then a couple of people popped up and said,
why? Where is it?
Where's the podcast? I was like, oh, I'm sorry. And so what I did was I thought, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to record the whole thing, chop the ends off of it, put my music in my intro, my music, that I have here locally. My friend did in my booth back here behind me with his guitar, and just put it out there and don't worry about it. So unless we have something in the middle, where the other day I did go in the middle and pull out a few minutes of delay where I got kicked off and then I come back on. Well, I cut that section off, out of the middle of it. But other than that, I just sent it out the way it is, because this is what really happened. And I have loosened up. You'll not believe. I mean, my first podcasts are so stiff and so regulated. And so, and so I have loosened up so incredibly much. And it's been very good for me associating with you, because I was pretty stiff before that.
But that's what I do like with the live streaming, is because you feel as though but as if it's recording, like you said, you're tempted to I've got to do something with this. I can't just put it up.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas once it's recorded, it's out there. You can still delete it, I suppose, and redo it again if you wish to. But I thought the whole point is people like to see it rough and ready. There's plenty of these very produced things, and like you say, people are very stiff because if they're scripted and that, and people are just not interested in that with YouTube as well. They just want to see warts and all. Like if you're doing a demo, they want to see you drop the camera or
like,
freeze up or do something and not work correctly because, well, that's what it is. Because when you see a brand review, a proper one, say from Panasonic, Sony, they're not going to show you any imperfections. It's going to be 150% correct, isn't it? It's going to be over. And that, whereas everybody, and when I look for a product, if I can't find anything negative about a product, I won't buy it because I just think it's right. If there's no negative things out there, nobody's buying the damn thing or nobody's bought it, because you could have the best thing that there's nothing wrong with it, but you'll always find people who hate it.
Well, but I mean, but you'll find somebody that says this is a really good camera. I think it's good. I used it. The only problem I have, I wish the screen was bigger. The screen on the back was bigger, but it's a good camera otherwise. Well, that's an honest review.
Yeah, that's right. And then and all depends, like I said, with products. Yes, they're excellent. People say, they said it was a good, but some people, depends how you're using a product as well.
Right.
It's like if you're not using it to its full capacity, you might not have struck that problem because you just go there, use it, and you're quite happy with that. But if you went in depth and really was a workhorse recording a video camera for 3.5 hours every day for a week, you might find more imperfections. But if you go once a week and record a total of 5 minutes, well, you're not going to find these different things. But it's said that there's got to be good and bad with everything, and I just hate when the people just get on there and bag things for the sake of bagging it. But I don't mind if somebody says, well, that's what they found it, but it might be okay for you, because everything's got its good points and bad points. Like I'm quite interested, like I said, in that Panasonic, but I've also got my eye on, would love to have the Sony A7 Mark II. But that's a little bit dearer, but there's pros and cons for that. Like that still has the issues that a lot of people are saying, but it still is a damn good camera. And but people say, well, yeah, it's got its problems, but there's nothing else out there that matches what the camera can do. So you put up with the issues, and hopefully it'll get better as they do. But then again, if it didn't have any of maybe it would be twice as much. It's doing such a good job, but as I said, there's always something different that you can get from all these different reviews out there. So
yeah, that's true. And you talking about earlier about being formal and stiff, and then live and just kind of loose and everything like that. I have noticed an interesting trend on my podcast is that every time I put out a new show, obviously there's a bit of a rush on it, and then about the same number of people listen most of the time, and goes up, different things. And I can tell whenever I come up with a really good title for the show, because there'll be a few extra listens to it where somebody got it on a search, I nailed that title. But then I find that probably in any given month, half of all the listenership is on my back catalog. My first podcast, more than 2.5 years ago, my original first episode of the first podcast, Daggers of the Mind, has been hit probably 10 times in the last month. Oh. And what I'm finding is there's a whole bunch I did 50 episodes of that podcast, and that was planned, 50 episodes, then it was done. Well, I'm finding that there's a whole bunch of interest in that podcast, and it's on the same audio feed as this show is, and it's just further back in the catalog. And I am getting a bunch of interest from foreign countries where people are listening to the older episodes way back when, and then they'll listen to some here too. And it's just kind of funny that all my old formal, very stiff and formal stuff, it was more essays that I had written, and I'm kind of very straightforward with them. And and people are even liking the old Facebook page that I don't really pay much attention to anymore. These are still published on on that same page, but it still says Daggers of the Mind because I can't figure out how to get it, change it. I don't know if you can. And, but I keep getting likes on that page from foreign countries.
Hey, how did you go with the title last week? Did that get you thousands of views?
Not thousands, but I definitely got, it's definitely bumped up there. It actually ran up a little quicker than the other ones did. And it surpassed the previous 3 or 4 episodes pretty rapidly.
I might put that on, but I was a bit scared to put it on the thing. I thought, I don't know how Rick will take that. So
I mean, like you say, what you do is just you're just putting the weekly catch up episode 33. Now, does Rick, whenever he does his, does he put the name of the guest and things like that on it, on the actual title?
So, and what I've been going back and putting your titles on our things as well.
Great,
comments.
No problem.
I'm going to put that one back on there. I think go through there and just update the titles. What was it? Those angry Americans?
Those arrogant, nasty Americans was what I said last week. Yeah.
Yes, I can't.
But this one here is going to be, the title for this one is going to be "He Can't Hammer a Nail." That's going to be the title of this one. I might say he can't even hammer a nail, but I'll see how to decide.
So, you watch. I'll have to go and watch on YouTube. Then you'll be sending me links to YouTube. How to hammer a nail.
Oh yeah. Well, all of a sudden, a bunch of people say, "This is how you hammer a nail."
I'm sure there's a YouTube showing you how to hammer a nail in there. So
there's everything else.
I know how to do it. It just never seems to work out for me. Like if I hammer a bit, it's sideways up. It just always, even if it goes in straight, it goes all the way in. 2 days later, it will have fallen to pieces. And like if you ever talk to my mother and say about my skills in sheet metal as well, if you said, what about that Jeffrey when he made a metal jug, and she will just start laughing, nearly ever had her laughing because I did this jug and there was more coming out of it than was going in when I was filling it up. And all through all the joints, and I'd soldered it all. It was ever so proud of this jug. Put this water more. It was just hopeless.
Well, see, those are things in your life that you have. You have these things that, your daughter made.
Yeah, that's it.
I keep stuff like that, like this, on my desk. As a matter of fact, this is one that she made too, and I've actually got the specs for the kind of sound treatment I do on our show here. Geoff track, I do noise reduction, amplify half of so I keep that right there on that mug right in front of me where I can
the only thing I made was a sheet metal box, a peg box that's stuck on the clothesline, that's on that. The only thing I've ever done that's still there, that's been there about 40 years or 45 years. Well, yes, that's about the only thing I've ever done that.
Well, there you go. Something of you lasts. Which for posterity, here we go. We got this thing down. Yeah.
Now, how I ever did that, because I was really amazed. It's the only thing I've ever done like that. And the funny thing is, when I left school, I went to become an apprentice bricklayer, and I said, "Really?" What was I?
Then you ended up in tech, yeah. Hey, what you're going to have to do is record your mother telling the story of the metal jug and play it on here.
She won't get through that because every time I mention it, I better not talk about that anymore. You might have a heart attack because she just laughed so much, and she said, I said, and every time I said, you're supposed to be supportive of your children when they say, "Oh, isn't that lovely?" But I said, I can still remember that day when I showed you. And he's laughing, and I said, I was a little kid. There's about 13 or 14. And you must have been devastated. So that's why I said,
what a lovely porous water jug you have there.
Oh, but I do laugh every time I think about that, because it was just woeful.
Those experiences are what you learn, lessons from all those experiences, and you learn not only how great we aren't, But at the same time, you also find how to treat other people whenever they have similar situations.
Yeah,
Give them some encouragement and stuff,
I just find I'll just leave those alone. That's what these people get paid money for, to do a lot of that. I would love to, you said dearly, but love to do it myself. But every time I try, it's just a waste of time. But like you said, I can do other things that other people can't do. So we've all got our different things on there.
No, we're all specialists. I went over that on probably a couple of my early podcast episodes about, every person you meet knows something you don't.
Well, that's right.
Believe me. Even babies have experienced something that you've never experienced. They can't tell you about it because they can't talk yet. But everyone you meet is a specialist at something.
And by the time they can have forgotten it.
When you get a college degree, the idea that a person who has a college degree is the smartest person around. No, they are a specialist in a particular field. It doesn't mean that they know everything, because the bricklayer, the plumber, people like that know things that college degreed engineer, or shall we say computer tech person or whatever, doesn't know. And so, we have to respect everybody simply because they know something you don't. You're not smarter than they are. You are just ignorant of the things that they know, and vice versa. That's it.
And that's why I do a lot of things. Like I took up, a different language to learn it, because I really struggle with that. Mm-hmm. And that makes you realize that when you do something nice and easy, well, that's exactly how they feel. Mm-hmm. They might be able to do a language easy, but it really brings you back down to earth. You think, but somebody explained, well, it's so simple, Geoff. And you say, yeah, but I still don't get it. And it's the same when
for you
just click this to do this on a tech. And I said, but then you understand when people say, I don't get it. And you understand, you say, well, I know. Mm-hmm. Everybody has that same sort of feeling. So, but it's simple. Mm-hmm. So, well, yes, that's simple for you. And that's where a lot of people just don't understand. You just got to have patience. And I think I'm quite good with that with people. I do have a lot of patience with people. And with that,
I have noticed that, yes.
Yes, with that, we'll probably be patient enough to finish up the show here, because it's just I think we've gone just over an hour anyway, because it's nearly 10 o'clock, but we started way early. I think we started 10 minutes early anyway. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll better leave it here. So thank you once again for a lovely conversation. See, we missed out for last week. That's probably why we're rambling on and going on a little bit more, because we had a week's break, and we got through the show without mentioning any politics. So we won't go say anything. So we can leave it at that. So
sounds good.
And so we'll see you again next week. So thanks you, everybody. So do subscribe to the weekly catch up and catch every wonderful episode that we do. So next week, show number 35. Yes, 35 on the 8th of February. So you're still there for that, Geoff?
Yep.
That's fine.
Everything's good.
Yep. Okay, we'll see you all next week. Bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening. Links for a free subscription, feedback, and everything else we do is at holbrooknewmedia.com. You can find all things Geoff Blanchard at jeffblanchard.com.